Data Masters, brought to you by Data Engineering Pilipinas.
Hi guys, I'm Pat. I'm a senior data scientist at GoTime Bank. I'm one of your hosts for today. And Miss Casey.
And I'm Kata, and we will be your hosts and moderators for tonight. Whether you're tuning in as part of our growing DEP community or it's your first time here, we're so glad to have you. Tonight's session is all about innovation, community, and inspiring data projects that are built with purpose and passion.
We are very honored to have two amazing guest speakers with us. Both are not only technically brilliant but also deeply involved in meaningful projects. Up first, we have Miss Nina Kumiya, a data engineer known for designing smart and scalable systems. Will walk us through metadata-driven pipeline, a powerful approach to making data workflows more dynamic, maintainable, and automation-friendly. With much love and energy, let's all welcome the brilliant Miss Nina Kumia. Miss Nina,
Hi
Welcome, Miss
everyone.
Nina.
Yeah, so good evening. Sige, magpapakita ako ng muka. Sana hindi kayo ma-disappoint. Yeah. Anyway, so it's my second time guesting here in Data Engineering Pilipinas, and I'm very glad to share one of the pipelines that we're currently doing, or we have actually worked on in two of my companies. No? Well, hindi ko pagmamay-ari yung company ha, just to clarify. But I work with those two companies. And napansin ko, ito yung nagiging trend right now. So they wanted to have smart, scalable, and flexible data workflows. So ito yung nakita namin na solution for that particular requirement. So now I'll go ahead and discuss everything to you. So before I start, I'd like to introduce myself. So I am Nina Kumiya. I have a license in teaching and also a graduate in UANP with a graduate degree of Masters of Applied Business Analytics. So I am an experienced data engineer and team lead with strong background in AWS, Python, Snowflake, and data pipeline development. Um, I have proven leadership and in mentoring team members, driving product improvements and aligning tech solutions with the current business goal. So, yun nga. As I have mentioned earlier, meron kaming certain requirement for my previous projects na ganito yung gusto nilang gawin. They want smarter, scalable, and flexible data workflows. So, sige, I'll start with the discussion right now. I don't know if you have been reading the post of Data Engineering Pilipinas, and if you notice, meron dito siyang kinuha sa Reddit, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just a certain discussion about the biggest niche or holes in the industry right now. So sabi ko, napaisip ako that time. So ano nga ba yung biggest hole gap in the data engineering industry right now, di ba? So I try to look into ChatGPT. So sabi ko, sige nga, gusto ko lang malaman saan nga ba nagkukulang. Diba? And what ChatGPT answered is, kulang daw tayo or may gap tayo sa no-code, low-code data engineering tools or let's say processes. So yung gap daw natin is data engineering is still too code heavy for analysts and business users, which is actually true. Diba? Bawat pipeline, meron kang certain code, whether it's extracting data from JSON, extracting from CSV, from that file, from text file, from XML, ang heavy. Yung pala extraction pa lang yun, wala pa tayo doon sa transformation, data quality, etc. So, sabi ko, o nga, no? And then, ang opportunity daw natin is to actually think like Airbyte or DBT, pero for non-engineers, but with fine-grained control and transparency. So, for those who are not familiar with Airbyte, it's actually an open source data integration platform. So, you have certain data sources. Ngayon, ang ginagawa ni Airbyte is to put it in one place. You consolidate the data from various sources into your data warehouses, lakes, or databases. Yan na. And then, yung DBT naman is a data build tool. It's another open source the data transformation processes within a data warehouse. So, yan yung mga current tools na ginagamit namin ngayon. Pero ang sinasabi kasi dito, dapat daw sana for non-engineers. Yan. Kasi if you may notice, ako rin, kahit ako, I find it, a waste kapag yung mga data engineers na magagaling, they end up supporting pipelines na puwede namang hindi na i-support. Pero dahil nagkakaroon ng error, dahil sa mga nagkakaroon ng human errors, ang nangyayari is we have to put good data engineers or even the best data engineers to actually just support an existing pipeline. So imbes na sila ay nag-aaral for another tool or they're skilling up, ang nangyayari nasa-stuck sila to support pipeline. So yun. So it's actually a waste of talent if you ask me. Now, what is low code, no code in data engineering? Miss Nina, ibig sabihin ba nun hindi na ako magko-code? Yun po ba yun? Ayan. So, low code, no code data engineering refers to building data pipelines, integrations, and transformations with little or no traditional coding, usually through visual interfaces, drag and drop tools, or pre-built templates. Hindi ko po kayo paggagawin ng visual interfaces and drag and drop tools. Hindi po natin trabaho yan talaga. But I would like to teach you how to do the pre-built templates. Yung visual interfaces kasi kadalasan mga web developers yan or application developers ang gumagawa yan, not really data engineers. Okay, so i-clarify ko lang yon. So we will just focus on the pre-built templates. So when you say template, gawa na siya, all you have to do is to make some changes in it so that yung configuration nyo or yung data source nyo or yung transformations nyo will be easily managed. Okay, take note ha, yung low code, no code, hindi ibig sabihin hindi ka nagko-code. Now, what is metadata-driven pipeline? So, ano ba to? Bakit ba metadata? Now, it is actually a data pipeline that uses metadata to define how data should be processed. It's configuration-driven instead of hard-coded logic. It makes use of control tables, config files, or even data catalogs. It enables dynamic and reusable workflows. So, question, sino puwedeng mag-explain sa akin what is metadata-driven? Sige nga. Or let's say metadata na lang. Kasi baka diyan pa lang hindi na natin alam ano ibig sabihin ng metadata, 'di ba? So, paano natin maintindihan yung topic ko? Anybody from the chat who wanted to try? What is metadata? Ayan, nagta-type si Pipip. Sige nga, Pipip, let's try. Parang data about the data po ata. Uy, teka, ano na naman yan? Data about the data. That's correct. It's your data about data. Now, let's try to think it like this. No, meron kang CSV file or meron kang Word file. Pang thesis mo. Miss Nina, ano ba yung data nung thesis project ko? Ano nga ba? Unang-una, you might want to consider ano yung laman ng thesis mo. So, if you have introduction, statement of the problem, puwede rin naman yung methodology mo, etc. So, those are your internal data do sa file mo. But that doesn't mean na yun lang yung data na meron ka. Ano pa ang meron? So, you have your file name, the date and time, when was it created, when was it modified, ano yung kanyang extension ba yun ang tawag dun? O file type, kung .docs ba siya, baka PDF file yan, etc. So, you have that kind of metadata. So, it is actually defined as the data providing information about one or more aspects of your data. It is used to summarize basic information about data that can make tracking and working with specific data easier. Okay? So, ulitin ko, ang metadata, it's data about your data. So, if you have one file, hindi lang yung laman ng file na yon yung data mo. But it is comprised of almost everything, including the type of data that you have. Okay? Yan. So, malinaw na tayo sa metadata ha. Alam na natin yan. Now, when do we use metadata-driven pipeline? So, kailan nga ba siya? Is it every day na gagawa ko ng pipeline tuwing tatanungin ako ng boss ko, anong idea ko, yun ang ipe-present ko? Of course, there's a certain time for everything. So, we use metadata-driven pipelines when handling diverse, ibig sabihin madami, iba-iba. or frequently changing data sources. Ayan, frequently changing. So example, ngayon ang gusto ng client mo, galing lang siya sa folder, sa local folder ng isang laptop or ng isang virtual machine. Kinabukasan gusto niya na galing sa cloud. Una AWS pa. Tapos nagbago na naman isip niya, gusto niya Azure na. So, there's a certain thing about changing to data sources, no? Pwede ding data types, file size, and then gusto niya iba rin yung target table, staging table, and etc. Yan. So, another item when we to decide when we want to use metadata driven pipeline is when workflows need to scale across multiple data sets or environments. Then when minimizing code duplication is a priority and during data integration, ETL, ELT, and data quality monitoring tasks. Actually, sa amin, pinakamadalas gamit ng metadata-driven pipelines is sa extraction, sa data quality. Transformation, syempre iba-iba na yan most of the time, especially kung iba't ibang streams yung pinag-uusapan natin. Pero extraction, data quality, most of the time, same-same lang naman yan. No, depending on your organization's standard. Yan, so where can this be used or which industries? Actually, madami. You can almost use this in all industries. You have here your healthcare whenever you're managing claims, patient records, lab results, finance when you're processing transactions and compliance checks, and then product catalogs, inventory pipelines, telecom, marketing, government, and logistics. Dun sa i-discuss ko later, it's a government transportation service, kaya doon tayo mag-focus. Then why do we use metadata driven? Hindi yan dahil napagtripan lang ng kliyente nyo or napagtripan ko lang. So, we wanted to reduce repetitive code. Paulit-ulit yung code. Example, I have 3 streamlines. So, ano ba yung streamlines na sinasabi ko? I have here managing claims. That's one streamline. Patient record is another streamline. And then lab result is another streamline. So, tatlo, di ba? Sabi dito, we don't want repetitive code. So, meaning, kapag ako ay nag-extract ng data sa managing claims, patient records, and lab results, most likely they have the same code. Tama? So, ano nangyayari? Bawat pipeline ng stream mo, same na same yung code na ginagamit mo. So, we wanted to reduce that kind of repetitive action or repetitive case. Now, it also speeds up onboarding of new data sources, data types, type, file size, target tables, staging tables, and etc. And then increases maintainability and scalability and enables low-code, no-code automation for data teams. So, hindi na requirement na data engineer lang ang gagalaw ng pipeline nyo, but it also opens up the opportunity to existing data analysts, pwede rin sa level 1 support team ninyo or even sa data scientists nyo. So, hindi na requirement na data engineers lang talaga. And how does it work? So, of course, you have to define your metadata. So, it could be your data source and destination. Then you have your transformation rules. It could be something like filtering or pwedeng kukunin nyo lang yung file name or yung date using regex. And then you also have your scheduling and triggers kasi baka mamaya pang global pala yung healthcare nyo. So, you have their different schedules because of time zones, di ba? And then of course, your file type. Pwedeng sa US, ang binibigay nila sa inyo is CSV. For Europe, you may be given that file or XML, etc. So, that's it. And then you have your pipeline engine reads metadata to execute dynamically. And it is usually built with the following. You have the SQL, YAML, JSON, Jinja. Sa experience ko, ginagawa namin siyang API response. So it's written in JSON. But for my friend who uses DBT, if I'm not mistaken, Jinja yung gamit nila. Then you can also use this with the orchestration tool of Airflow and AWS Step Functions. Ang nasasanay ako is Airflow. So what are the benefits? So you have your flexibility, easy to adapt to change, reusability, one pipeline or many data sources or file type, And scalability, you can manage 10 or 10,000 pipelines with ease, cost efficiency, and improve governance, clear documentation via metadata. Very seldom yung may 10,000 pipelines pala, ha, just so you know. But it means, gusto ko lang ipakita dito na you can actually have this as much as you want. Pero syempre, with all due, thought na binigay nyo dito. So this is an example of an architecture with metadata. Pero I used AWS kasi ito yung experience ko. So sorry kung hindi kayo masyadong familiar sa AWS. I'll just try to discuss everything. So this diagram illustrates how metadata-driven ETL pipeline works in an AWS environment. So the pipeline is broken down into 4 key stages. So you have your extraction, transformation, and then your metadata management and loading. So we begin by extracting your raw data from your Amazon S3. So it's your bucket. This could be CSVs, JSON files, DAT files, text files, XML, di ba? So, iba-iba, bahala kayo kung anong gusto nyo ilagay dyan, or any structured. Please take note that it has to be structured or wag po mag-expect ng metadata tas picture ang ilalagay. Ano? So, it has to be something like that. And then the data here is diverse. It could be customer records, transaction logs, and etc. And then we go to the transformation. An AWS Lambda function is triggered either by an event or a schedule. So kapag may naglagay ng raw data sa S3 natin, matitrigger si Lambda, ang tawag doon ay event trigger. Kapag naman siya ay automatically nagra-run every 8 a.m., then that is your schedule. So this function reads the raw data and uses metadata rules to drive through transformation, like renaming columns, filtering rows, applying business rules. So, di ba kadalasan, kapag diverse ang data natin, meron kayong matatanggap na CSV file, tapos ang pangalan written in small letters. Meron naman na hindi uniform, may mga file names na kakaiba, yung pagkakaayos sa kanya. But because of metadata driven pipelines, nagiging flexible yung ating code. So we have already rules set up. Yan. Ngayon, metadata management. So instead of hard coding how data should be processed, we use metadata stored in a config or control table. So the Lambda function reads this metadata to determine what SQL logic to apply, what columns to transform, and where to route the data. In parameterized SQL queries are built dynamically using the metadata. For example, if the metadata says filter only US customers, it injects that data into the SQL logic. This makes the pipeline adaptable, and you just have to change the configuration, not the code itself. Now, loading to Amazon RDS, finally, when the data is cleaned already, na-transform na yung data and it's loaded into an Amazon RDS or to any target database. Pwede naman po sa Snowflake yan, pwede rin sa Redshift. Since the metadata drives the process, this load it into different tables depending on what is defined in your metadata. Yan. So, ang beauty lang naman ng architecture na to is that once you set up the engine, you don't need to keep writing a new ETL code for each pipeline. You just update the metadata, the pipeline adjusts automatically, and this is a huge win for scalability and agility. So, we use Amazon RDS storage because it gives us a centralized, reliable, and easily queryable place to manage the rules that drive our ETL pipelines. Yan. Okay? So, ito yung example niya. So, kadalasan kapag nagko-code kayo, you do this, di ba? Yung source path, i-hard code mo na manggagaling yan sa isang S3. Bakit? Ang pangalan ng file mo is customers.csv. Target table mo is customers. Ngayon, ang tanong, paano kapag walang pumasok na ang pangalan ay customers.csv? What will happen? It will give you an error. Mag-e-error yung pipeline mo kasi hinahanap niya yung customers.csv, hindi niya makita. Ganon din sa target table. Paano kapag na-drop yung table natin na wala yung customers table? diba? So, what happens when you have metadata-driven pipelines is you store it here in the S3 box. You store the source path, S3, and then bucket, then customers.csv, target table, customers, and your filter country would be USA and Canada. Pwede pong madami yan. So you can have another bucket here, and then let's say patient records.csv, target table is patient records, and then yung filter and country mo, USA and Canada pa rin. And then your ETL pipeline will actually just read it dynamically, depende dun sa source path na inilagay mo. So you have the select source path, target table, filter country from metadata config where active is equal to 1. Yeah. So, ganito yung magiging itsura niya. In larger environments, metadata could live in a data catalog like in AWS Glue Data Catalog. But for fast-moving and lightweight pipelines, RDS gives the perfect balance between simplicity and power. Yan. So, huwag kayong magugulat pagka nagpunta kayo sa isang company, "Oh, bakit hindi dynamic yung code mo?" Yan. Ito yun most of the time. Ito yung example pala ng CSV file kasi sorry ginawa ko lang din siya sa personal computer ko. So, you can have your file metadata, which is your source. Then you have your file name, file type, file size, target table, staging table. And then your data metadata would be your column name, rows, filters, conditions, and etc. Yan. Tapos, like what I've mentioned, ginagawa namin siyang API response. So, pwede siyang CSV file, DAT file, JSON. Okay lang yon. Ipaprocess namin yan, depende do sa requirement ng client. And then, at the end of the day, it will become an API response. So, gato na yung magiging itsura niya. So, you have your source file. And then, itong file path and table name, they will be coming from your RDS. Yan. So, dinefine siya doon. Tapos, you have your columns, which are your customer ID. So, ibig sabihin, yung nandito na file would become ID lang. Diba? You have your customer ID, customer name, country. So, ang gagawin, dahil siya ay nag-metadata na, i-rename po natin yung customer ID into ID, customer name into name, country to country. Again, it depends kasi meron kang mga vendors na ang ilalagay lang is ID or name or country. So, ginagawa natin siya to unify it or to make it uniform. Yan. So, yan yun. And then, these are your filters na gagamitin for the query. So, ano pong itsura ng magiging Python script nyo? It's something like this. So, I did this sa local ko, kaya metadata.json yan. Pero definitely, if you're consuming it from an AWS resource like S3, it would become very different. But for the sake of showing you the code, so this is how it actually looks like. And then, it will simply look into the JSON file that we have created earlier. So, ano yung pangalan ng source file, ano yung file path, table name, columns, and yung mga filter niya. Babasahin niya yung PDF. Ita-transform niya yun based dun sa requirements natin. And then, apply the filters and then simply load it to our database, which is the SQL Lite 3. Now, your use case would be an ETL, ELT pipelines for multi-tenant environments, automated data quality checks. Very important to. To be honest, second-hand class. Second-hand, ano ba? Ang tawag namin dito kasi currently hindi to priority ng mga tao eh, di ba? Nare-realize lang nila na kailangan ng data quality kapag tapos na yung pipeline and they're having a hard time putting data quality at the end of the day dahil nga na ano na lang yon na realize nila. I think the term is second-hand or second-class citizens sa data engineering. So, dapat first class siya palagi. And then you have the data lake ingestion frameworks, schema-driven data validation, report, and dashboard generation pipelines, ML feature engineering pipelines. So, ito yung example ng use case na ginawa namin. So, a transportation department, government po ito in a certain country would like to create a dashboard that will monitor the buses. It's not state-owned, meaning hindi sila yung may-ari ng mga bus na yun. So they have like 20 vendors. Kumbaga sa atin, meron tayong Jack, Jam, Baliwag Express, Alps, at kung ano-ano pang pangalan ng bus company. So they have like about 20 vendors catering nationwide in their country. And these vendors have their own files for passenger data, routes, fares, bus stops, and etc. Kung ano-ano pa, pati nga yung sweldo ata ng mga bus driver nila, meron din sila eh. Ngayon, if we're going to have a metadata-driven solution, most of the time, I'm not saying all the time ha, most of the time, it would be 20 vendors. Tapos itong 20 vendors na to, depende doon sa file type nila. Let's say, iba-iba. For passenger data, let's say CSV yung gamit nila. For routes, since it includes Google Map, it will be different. For fares, another different thing as well. So depende kung ano yung file types nila, it will be multiplied to that particular vendor, and then that would be the number of pipelines that you have. But with metadata-driven solution, we can only have 20 vendors and then you have 20 pipelines kasi lahat ng data na yon ay naka-configure na po sa isang metadata table. You have that in your table. You just have to identify anong vendor po yung gumagamit ng CSV for passenger data, sinong vendor po yung gumagamit ng JSON for passenger data. So you have only that particular pipeline for them. And then, yun lang yung gagamitin natin for all of their data. Pwede namang 20 vendors or pwedeng stream. Pwede rin pong gano'n yung mathematical equation natin. Depende po yan sa gusto niyong maging focus. Others would consider vendors kasi they wanted to be able to see the performance of those vendors. Yung iba naman, stream na lang. Like, passenger data, routes, fares, bus stops. Hindi na nila ni-specify sino yung vendor. So, that's it. Do we have any question about this topic? Oh, this is the last slide actually. Wala nagtanong. Sana naintindihan niyo po. Ayan,
Ah,
so, yes.
Hello po, good evening po. Question ko lang po, based po kasi parang sa experience ko po, what if parang, per vendor iba't iba po siya ng data structure, parang gano'n po?
Ayun. That's when you
Kahit
say, what do you mean by data structure? Sorry.
parang iba po yung mga column name, parang sa for example, branch po ni Jollibee sa Europe, parang gano'n.
Mm.
Iba po yung column name po niya, matatagpuan siya sa ganitong, array na dito po, parang gano'n po. Is it, still possible po or parang additional transformation po ulit for that?
When you say different array, nag-add, nag-subtract, ganun ba?
Yes po, parang gano'n po.
That's a different case na. Kasi kapag when you say you're trying to configure everything, di ba? You're trying to identify, that will be a question of data quality. Kasi bakit ka magkakaroon ng file na magkakaiba yung number of columns? So most likely, yung company natin, nakalimot sila mag-enforce ng standard. So, ang requirement kasi madalas dyan is let's say for customer data, ano ba dapat yung kino-collect niyo lang na data? Ngayon, if you're going to tell me na, Miss Nina, kasi sa Europe may GDPR, so ito lang yung mga pwede mong kunin na data sa kanila. That's totally fine kasi may mga ganong cases naman po talaga. So, it's more of making everything flexible. You can identify actually na kapag Europe, dapat 5 lang yung columns nito. So, yun yung gagawin po nung ating code. I-identify niya anong country 'to, 5 lang dapat yung kinukuha ko. Kapag US, 10 ang kinukuhang data, 'pag Philippines, 20. So, you can configure it in your codes as well. Pero sa akin, kapag bigla na hindi siya na-identify na, "Oh, bakit ito nagpadala ng 6 na column?" Bigla. So, it's more of a question sa data quality sa akin.
Um,
Did I answer your question?
yes po, very much po. That is well noted po. Thank you po.
Okay, thank you. Merong question, could you share sample data quality use cases for metadata-driven jobs? I think that's one example, yung sinabi ni Taipip na paano daw kapagka, sa ibang country. So yun nga, sa iba't ibang bansa kasi meron tayong, mga government body that has to do that makes sure na yung kino-collect nating data sa kanila is alam ng mga kliyente. So one data quality probably is yung number of columns that you can get or the name of the columns that you can get. Another one is yung ine-expect yung name of columns. So, yung mga data quality yan. File name. So, dapat aware kayo ano ba yung file name na papasok dun sa system ninyo. So, you can actually use regex for that one to check everything if it passes your data quality. Again, it depends on your um, company, ano nga ba yung mga standard nila when you say quality. Baka mamaya may pumasok diyan na CSV file na ang size lang is 1 KB. Dapat ba pina-process niyo 1 KB na file size or dapat at least 10 KB? So, nasa sa inyo yun kung paano niyo ise-set up yung metadata configuration niyo. May isa pa nagta-type. Sige. For the sake of time, kasi nandito pa si Sir Engramar. No, he will also have something kasi for us. So, I will accept siguro last two questions. Tapos other than that, pwede niyo naman i-direct message sa akin. I'll be more than happy to answer it for you. Nagta-type si Cardinal Sean. Miss Nina, may copy po kayo ng presentation. Oo naman, sige. Pwede ko naman kayo bigyan. And also, this is recorded. I think they will be uploading this. Pwede niyong balik-balikan. Okay? So, I guess wala nang magtatanong, Kat. I'll give the floor to you, back to you, and then if you have questions, you can just reach out to me anytime.
Yes,
Thank
Miss
you.
Nina. Guys, you may type your questions and then later we can get back to Miss Nina after Sir Bong, no? So our next speaker is Sir Bong, a longtime data advocate and community leader who believes in building with purpose. He'll be sharing about the Puso Project, an initiative that uses data for community empowerment and social development. Please give a warm welcome to Sir Bong Engramar Bolyas. Okay, sir.
Thanks, Kata. Let me try to share my screen. I hope I can share it. Oh, it looks like it says Discord does not have permission to capture. Hold on. Anyway, let me start by introducing myself, Kata. But first of all, that was a good, presentation, Nina. Well done. So I guess to start introducing, I'm Engramar Bolyas, as what Kata said. Isa ako sa moderator of Data Engineering Pilipinas. So I'm based in Sydney, Australia. I've been here since 2007. Work in Saudi Arabia before that in Riyadh Bank, primarily doing mainframe stuff, COBOL in particular. So anyway, I'm working right now with the GBG. It's a software, I guess we can just say there are three pillars of offerings: identity verification, location intelligence, and fraud management. So I'm in the location intelligence side of things. So anyway, Puso Project. Una, ano yung Puso Project? So I guess ang credit nito is with Sir Mike. Kasi nag-uusap kami dati, paano natin gagawing engage yung community, no? Nag-iisip kami, siguro mas maganda, just like what we're doing here in Code Sydney, is i-offer yung services natin sa community, no? Regardless whether it's a government organization or non-government organization. So, yun yung talagang purpose. At ang sabi nga ni Sir Mike, oy, Puso Project yan. Diba? So, yun, nagsimula yun. Doon nagsimula. Yun yung alamat ng Puso Project. Anyway, let me try again to share my screen. I hope I can share it this time.
Sir Bong,
Can
sabi
you
ni
still
Sir
hear
Mike,
me?
we can transfer to live stage.
Okay. That
Let's
would
go to
be
live stage,
better.
okay?
Okay. Can you hear me, guys? That's good. Let me try to share my screen now. It looks like it's still showing that I don't have permission. Unfortunately, yeah. So how can I change the setting? Let me try. Maybe there's a setting here for sharing. Uh, Kata, it appears that I'm not able to find that setting. I'm very sorry for that. But I can still continue talking if you are okay with it. Are you okay with that? Or should I just create a Teams meet, Google Meet meeting if you like? I can actually record it as well from there. I can share the link here if you like. Are you happy for me to do that, guys? Kata, Sir Mike? Okay, let me try to share.
Sige sir, okay lang.
Sige.
Ayaw ko
Sorry.
ano.
Sorry. Let me try. Okay. See you guys. I just sent the invite. Yep. I mean the meeting link. See you there. Cheers.
Ay, lipat na lang dun sa ano ha.
Hello, Kata, Catherine. Hello, guys. I hope you can hear me. All good? Can you hear me,
Okay.
guys? Yep. Okay, let me share my screen. Yep. Oh, do you want me to record this, Kata? Or no need? I cannot hear you, Kata. So, the partnerships and also the projects that we have built primarily for nonprofits and charities. So you can see here some photos as well. And I guess Mike is aware that at some point this year, earlier this year, we started the Blue Hex initiative. It's sort of like an offering of fractional work, actually. So, sort of like fractional offering for Australian companies. Oh, sorry, there's echo. Yep. Let me try to close Discord. Oh, good, guys. Can you still hear me? Sorry. Sorry. Oh, you can still hear me?
Try,
Yep, Mike.
can you try sharing?
What's that, Mike?
Nakapag-share ka?
Yep.
Hi, Bong.
Yep. Yep. Hello, Mike. Can you see my screen or not yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry for that. Yeah.